By the time you actually see this video, or maybe have a chance to see this video, the 5th episode of Book of Boba Fett will have aired. And I have the same question that the Hollywood Reporter has been asking. Well, they aren't as direct as I'll be. Can the last 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett actually save this series and make it make sense? I don't know. As with the headline here in the Hollywood Reporter article, it says Book of Boba Fett faces a challenging home stretch, and I would say spot on for a change. Are you going to ask the right questions? Because I'm going to talk all the way through this article about what I think this show has to do to at least impress some people as it, winds down its last 3 episodes. With 3 episodes left, the Disney Plus series is shaping up to be the show fans feared The Mandalorian would become. That's interesting. It's past the midway point in Disney Minus's The Book of Boba Fett, and the fans head into the final 3 episodes. They might be asking themselves a difficult question. Is Lucasfilm's second live-action Star Wars everything that they'd worried its first would be? From the time The Mandalorian's title was announced in October of 2018 until its debut on Disney Minus 13 months later, fans speculated. What would the series offer? Was it going to be a bounty hunter procedural or a Game of Thrones-esque epic? As more details about the project were released, the series' debt to the original Star Wars trilogy became more obvious, prompting some to wonder just how much it would center on nostalgia as opposed to anything new or unexpected. What eventually arrived, of course, was a show that made multiple nods to Star Wars of the past, but took things in a different direction. Whether it was the very existence of Grogu and the cloning subplot that he drove, intermittent dives into Mandalorian lore, or simply a refusal to use pre-existing characters for anything more than a cameo, The Mandalorian felt like something new from a galaxy far, far away that had been feeling increasingly stale and repetitive on the big screen. A bullet, it seemed, had been dodged. And then Boba Fett showed up. Before I go on, I'm going to say, so far I've agreed with everything that they've said there, with the exception of the cameos. I thought there were more than enough of those, but I did enjoy the new characters that were introduced in The Mandalorian, and to a certain extent, it did feel somewhat Star Wars-like. At least the first season. The second season, a little more disjointed, but still somewhat Star Wars-like. And with a nod to some of the previous stuff, I mean, it stayed more close to home and a little less Disney Star Wars, but was still quite safe, very bloodless. There wasn't a lot of stakes, and it didn't seem to ultimately matter. A lot of people just watched it anyway. I'll continue. While his appearance in The Mandalorian's second season verged on the brink of being self-indulgent fan service, really, was there any reason that he had to appear in a larger story? And this is an actually very salient question here. The show's strong identity based around the title character's connection with his adopted son figure and the lengths he'd go to protect him ultimately prevailed, which of course they did in that show. This allowed the show to maintain focus on its core strengths and save itself from becoming fan service with little purpose beyond nostalgia. Book of Boba Fett, however, has no defense mechanism, much to its detriment. Well, I don't think you need a defense mechanism. I think you need a good story and you need a good way of telling it. And I think that the flashback fest in the first several episodes did not help this show. It certainly hindered its storytelling. But I'll continue. This much was signposted by the prologue to the series that appeared at the end of The Mandalorian's second season. Of course, we all saw what happened there with Bib Fortuna. In the space of less than a minute, the viewer was given multiple visual cues to bring 1983's Return of the Jedi to mind. Whether it was Jabba the Hutt's palace on the desert planet of Tatooine, the brief return of fan favorite minor character Bib Fortuna, appearances of Gamorrean guards and Twi'lek dancers, or sets and shots recreating the look and feel of the opening of the final chapter of the franchise's original trilogy. The message was clear. If audiences wanted the old hits one more time, then here they were, in a series centered around arguably the biggest one-hit wonder the franchise had ever produced. That teaser proved entirely prescient of the show to come. 4 episodes in, Book of Boba Fett has continued to focus on recreated style over substance, working Tusken Raiders, Jawas, Rodians, Wookiees, Twi'leks, familiar droids, the Rancor, some extra Hutts, and of course the infamous Sarlacc pit into the proceedings, of course. And again, you are on Tatooine, all of these things exist there, so I'm not sure how I would get all that upset about this, other than maybe the baby Rancor, but you know, that's something else for another video. It even brought back Max Rebo, the blue elephantine keyboard player from Return of the Jedi, which is one of the deeper cuts one can imagine for multiple appearances across the season. For those who wanted to revisit childhood favorites one more time, it's manna from heaven. Well, that's quite true. But for everyone wanting a show that stands on its own merits, things might be slightly less of a slam dunk. And I'm going to be honest here, I was looking for both of those things. Didn't get them. With more than half of the show's first season finished, it should be noted that Boba Fett is an astonishingly slow show. Even accounting for the dual timeline structure of the series, which has split the story between what happened before the character's appearances in The Mandalorian and what happens after. Very little has actually been accomplished in terms of forward motion. Again, one of my primary complaints with this form of storytelling. It's crap. By the time the second season of The Mandalorian ended, fans knew that Boba had survived his apparent demise in Return of the Jedi, become far more zen about things than might have been assumed given his previous appearances, although no less deadly, and then taken over organized crime on Tatooine by killing Bib Fortuna and replacing him as head of what used to be the Jabba the Hutt's organization. 4 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett later, and we can add the following things to that list. 1, after his escape from the Sarlacc, he was taken as a slave by the Tuskens before earning their trust and respect. But 2, the Tuskens were killed by a rival gang, whom he then killed as revenge. Meanwhile, in present day, 3, Boba is preparing to fight a rival criminal syndicate who appear to be making claim on his territory. Well, actually, they're making claim on the entire planet, but I won't quibble. That's basically it. The majority of the story so far either given over to fan service that goes nowhere, of course, Jabba the Hutt's cousins. Wow, they break this dialogue down already. And it looks like they're going to demand Jabba's empire. Oh, now they're leaving because someone told them off camera that someone else wanted the empire. Yeah, that was quite confusing. But hey, we got to see some other Hutts, I guess. This person's like writing it from my perspective in some cases. Anyway, massively extended set pieces focusing on mood over plot. I've been saying that from the very beginning. While simultaneously being surprisingly light on mood. Yeah, there's not a lot of depth here. I agree. Boba's vision quest in the second episode, anyone? Yeah, it was terrible. Ultimately, more about Boba Fett has been revealed in less screen time when he was a guest star on someone else's show than he's managed in his own series. No argument there. The development essentially stagnated. They're not wrong. It all adds up to a show that feels uneven at best, if not outright directionless, outside of evoking nostalgia, especially compared with the narrative speed of The Mandalorian, as well as the show's desire to introduce new elements to the core mythos of the franchise as a whole. Well, they've introduced some new stuff, at least to most people who are normies, as we would call it. Half a season in, it's a fair question to ask, what is the Book of Boba Fett about? Given the evidence at hand, it's hard not to give the answer. Making fans of the old films happy and seeing about their old toys again. Oh, wow. This is not overwhelmingly full of praise. Now, again, you have, of course, the trades that are controlled by Penske Media. This tends to be a little less friendly than Variety and Deadline, at least the Hollywood Reporter. But man, that spanks it, doesn't it? Anyway, Boba Fett's final 3 episodes air on Disney Minus weekly every Wednesday through February 9th. Maybe things will speed up as it heads towards the climax. That's the final line here. And I don't know. I don't think this show was paced well. And I've said that multiple times, whether it be on a live stream or previous videos. I don't think this was well thought through. I think that this was the same kind of situation where treatments were put together, but not an extensive amount of dialogue, and it was left for the person that was going to put the show together to kind of come up with that all along the way. And in instances where it might have been fleshed out, it didn't seem to resonate with the actors all that well, based on recent interviews with Tamura Morrison and Ming-Na Wen, right? Man, I don't know. It's incredibly frustrating to me because I thought there was an opportunity here to flesh out a character that was fairly savage, and if you got into the EU, was clearly savage. And there was a lot of dumb. I mean, come on. Boba Fett crawls out of the Sarlacc pit wearing his armor. He's aware that he's wearing his armor. And then the Jawas strip him of his armor, but somehow he thinks he needs to go and check out the Sarlacc pit in a later episode with his ship, the now renamed Slave One, and finds that, you know, destroying the Sarlacc essentially, and, you know, essentially spelunking into the Sarlacc looking for his armor, that made absolutely no sense to me. Because he would have known he's in his armor, and then, you know, as delirious as he was, I mean, that's a huge hole, right? Are we making an assumption that he lost his memory completely, but yet we have back to tanks, which gives him flashbacks and where obviously he has control of, or he sees his memories that way? I don't know. I really don't know. There are so many problems that I have with this show. At least we're not alone, for those of us who essentially have tapped out. The only reason I saw the 4th episode was because it happened to be on at a time when I was doing something else, so I just, you know, kind of sat there while I was doing what I was doing and kind of tried to absorb what was happening when I realized that there really wasn't a lot happening. I don't know. Outside of the strange imagery that got inserted, the Power Rangers / Skittle Vespa kids, you know, becoming part of his gang, and, you know, all of the niceness that Tamura Morrison in this role as Boba Fett has kind of delivered to everyone. I don't know, I was expecting my ruthless bounty hunter to be a ruthless crime boss. Or at least a crime boss, and he hasn't done that at all. And at times, Ming-Na Wen's character, Fennec Shand, probably, and I think that's ultimately the point, she probably would have been a better leader of this crime organization than Fett. A lot of things don't make sense in this show, but what can I tell you? I mean, when they raided the palace for the ship, why didn't they just, finish the job in the palace? I mean, there's so many problems here. Anyway, I'm done. Rant over. What do you think? Do you think that, even some of the more positive entities are now, calling into question what's happening in Disney Star Wars? Question number one. Question number two, do you think they're going to be able to speed this up in the last 3 episodes to make it worthwhile? You probably already have your answer on episode 5. Do you think 6 and 7 close it out in a way that's satisfying? That's another question. But again, those are questions I ask of you. So use the comments section down below to answer those, or ask any of your own, or just communicate back and forth your thoughts on this show and this article. And of course, support other independent creators out there, because they're not getting the kind of support that they absolutely deserve here on the platform. The algorithm favors the corporate content creators, so let's help out and make sure that we're subscribed. We hit the like button on things we like. We use the comments sections to make sure that we up the engagement of every video, and be sure to share them out so that other people see things that maybe aren't getting promoted in their timeline. And with that being said, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. It is. And until next time, bye.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.